Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Rockies Daily. I'm your host, Scott Ayers, where we talk all things Colorado Rockies. And look, to start today's show, we're going to talk about something that, obviously, cheering for Team USA, this is probably going to be something that stings a little, but it is probably one of the biggest bright spots for the Rockies this spring in terms of just individual performance. And that's Michael Lorenzen's performance against Team USA, where he goes 4 and 2/3, gives up just 2 hits, 1 walk, 2 Ks, and no runs allowed. In the huge and surprising upset win of Team Italy over Team USA, and it kind of leaves you shocked. I'm almost speechless on this show. It happened on Tuesday night where Team Italy, for a good part of the game, beat the brakes off of Team USA until the U.S. had, a heroic comeback fall short. And Michael Lorenzen goes 4 and 2/3 and has his best performance of the offseason, and his biggest performance, right? Like we've talked about in the spring, a lot of these performances, they don't really mean much. They pitch an inning or two. They try new pitches. The new pitches they try usually get shelled, and you call it a day. But for Lorenzen, I mean, he's going up against, some of the best players in the world. That lineup has a lot of guys that would be considered the best players in the world that are playing for keeps. It is serious baseball, and Lorenzen just comes out and gives some of his best stuff. And as a Rockies fan, that has to be really encouraging. We've talked about a lot of the discouraging things that we've seen in the spring. That was one of the more encouraging performances that we've seen. That was the closest thing to real baseball that you'll get, and it really was, right? Like, I understand it's the offseason, and it's not World Series baseball, but these guys are playing for something. Italy was playing for something, and so for Lorenzen to do that, to have that kind of success, and for Italy to win that game is unbelievable. But just strictly from a Rockies perspective, that is exactly what we need to see. We're obviously a little nervous going into this season about a pitching staff that was the worst in baseball last year, that has shown struggles in the spring. Lorenzen being one of those guys that has struggled, and he goes out and does that. So really encouraging from Michael Lorenzen to do that, to have that kind of success. And obviously, hopefully it's a springboard into the season, right? You hope him and Freeland can be really solid contributors to that starting rotation. And then the back half, 3 through 5, we'll just kind of have to wait and see. But if you can have just 2 solid pieces in your rotation for the year, that really means everything. And it can help the Rockies figure out what the heck will work at Coors Field. There is the other side of it, and that is Team USA losing in a game that they had no business losing. And honestly, the bigger picture here is just what poor managing looks like. Mark DeRosa, after the game, said he had thought that the U.S. had already clinched, which is why he made some of the decisions that he had made. And that just can't happen. Like, that can't happen at that big of a level. And you look down from it, you go from bird's eye to just kind of surface level. I mean, that's important across the board. And as Rockies fans, that's going to be one of the things that we look at for Warren Schaefer this year is, what does your in-game management look like? What is your situational awareness? I mean, this is some of the worst situational awareness you will see from a manager. And I genuinely cannot believe he went and admitted it. Like, that's very noble. Thank you for your honesty. Maybe we leave that one in the drafts and just say, hey, we went with our best guys. Even if it's not true, we went with our best guys and it didn't work. No, okay. But to just blatantly say, like, I wasn't aware that it wasn't clinched. And that's not verbatim what he said. But you get the picture and you can go and watch the interview. Like, he didn't know. And that just can't happen. And it also goes into the Skubal situation, which is a mess. And you can ask a lot of questions. And obviously, you get Skubal because it's like, hey, it's a contract year. Blow out your arm in a game that doesn't matter. But at the same time, Two different things. One, why invite a guy who's only going to pitch once? Skubal, who's obviously a top 2 pitcher in baseball. It's him and Paul Skeens. But if you knew he's only going to pitch once, first, why are you having him pitch against Great Britain? You could have me go out there. I could be just flinging at sidearms. I could look like a trebuchet out there, and it would be fine. It wouldn't matter because you would blow out Great Britain. Why would you waste his one start for that matchup? And I recognize that it's probably not that simple, but at the same time, if you knew, hey, he can't be fully committed and whatever, man, have him pitch against Italy or Mexico. I don't know. It just now they ran into this issue and they had him on the roster, and now he's not going to be available if they can make it to the quarterfinal play. As I'm speaking, Italy is up 3-0, and they need either Italy to win, or if Mexico wins, they need to score 5 or more runs. So realistically, if Italy scores again and it's 4-0, they should be good either way, right? Because either Italy wins or Mexico is going to have to score that 5th run to take the lead over Italy. So there is still a good chance that the U.S. advances, but if they don't, if Mexico wins this game 4-3, that looks horrible on Team USA, a team that realistically is the favorite. It's either them or Japan. And so it makes a road to getting to that championship game just much, much tougher. But man, what a total blunder and a great example of what a great manager can do and what bad managers can do, and the impact that they can have. Because I think we can often say, well, how much does a manager control, right? But there's still an impact of who's starting, who's playing, and so yeah, just a bad look for Team USA. Great look for our guy Michael Lorenzen, and we'll just have to wait and see if the U.S. can survive and advance. Because if they don't, I mean, that's just it's really, really dire if that's the case. But regardless, let's no longer talk about Team USA. Let's talk about a guy who, man, he could be the heartbeat of the Colorado Rockies. Charlie Condon, once again, another solid day here against Seattle. He goes 2 for 4 with a pair of doubles, 2 RBIs. He's up to 414 this spring. He's looked the part of a top 5 pick. And we've talked about Nick Kurtz on this show. We've talked about how him and Kurtz are in the same draft class. Kurtz went right after Charlie Condon. Kurtz obviously just had explosive year with the Sacramento A's. And so that's important to note for the Rockies, right? Because you don't want those things looming over your head of what if we took this guy instead of that guy. And Condon is kind of coming in a form this spring, and you hope that can actually lead into something for this regular season. And look, the first base position isn't going to just be given to him. And in fact, Troy Johnson has actually kind of quietly raised that batting average. He's now hitting .324, had a triple today against Seattle. Also had a couple of RBIs. TJ Rumfield is looking good. That's a 3-man race. There's a 4th guy that I'm going to talk about that I don't think's in the race, Edward Julian, but his name's in the ring because he was traded for. Condon's going to have to earn it, but man, he has played so well this spring and has shown that he has just such needed power, much needed power that the Rockies just haven't had or didn't have last year, I should say. And so, once again, it's just another really positive sign from another one of these young guys from the Colorado Rockies. And you just hope they get ample opportunity at the major league level in 2026, because we can all face it. The Rockies there's uphill climbs and then there's mountain climbs, and this is a 14er. This is a giant mountain that the Rockies are going up for the 2026 season. And so you want the floor raised, but if these young guys can play, you've got to play them. And I think Charlie Condon fits that mold. Rumfield has upside that's exciting. Troy Johnson is interesting, but in terms of overall potential, it has to be Charlie Condon of those names. And so if you have an opportunity to play him, I say you've got to give him a chance to play, and just see how he does at the major league level. So that's been kind of my stance really since the start of this month. Is I really think Condon, if he's not starting at first, I would still love to see him on that major league roster. Obviously, if he's not getting ample at bats, then have him start in AAA. Like, I don't want him to be brought up to the major league level just to be riding the pine and getting one at bat every 6 or 7 games. Like, I don't think that's productive. But if you see him as a starter and you see him as a bat, that's a guy that's going to play most days. Absolutely, it's time to call him up. So, interesting stuff for the Colorado Rockies as they figure out this position battle. But Charlie Condon has been a huge positive and a bit of a sigh of relief so far this spring. It's just spring, but man, a sigh of relief of seeing that development, seeing that bat come alive, and be reminded why the Rockies took him, because of that great power that Condon has. Finally, we end with the show with Team Canada. They advanced to the quarterfinals for the very first time. Congratulations, Canada, to our friends up north. Why I mention this is Edouard Julien. He's on Team Canada, folks. He's a Rocky legend is what some are saying. I'm not saying that, but some are saying he's a Rocky legend. Edouard Julien, though, he's part of this team. He led off a couple games ago against Puerto Rico where he went 1 for 5, and usually when players go 1 for 5, means their batting average probably dipped. Not a great day at the plate. But for Julien, it was the opposite. He actually raised his average to .077. So he's rewarded to bat at the bottom of the lineup against Team Cuba, where he went 1 for 3. His batting average raising up to 125. Canada now advancing to the quarterfinals. I'm obviously sounding a bit sarcastic because I really am struggling to be a believer in Edouard Julien, and I want him to prove me wrong. But in that 4-man race for first base, Edouard Julien is probably in a distant 4th. And he really has something to prove, because I think if he can't make it work with the Rockies, I just struggle to see him making it work anywhere. And that bat has to come alive, because if he's not going to be playing at second, which I don't think he will, that's, I think, Willie Castro's spot. He's not going to play at short, and he's not going to play at third. First base is his best opportunity, and all of a sudden, there is a huge competition at first base. A competition that I don't think any of us were really expecting or didn't know what to expect. And now you look at it, and it feels like he's falling behind this spring. And that's one of the developing stories of the spring. Julien might make that 26-man roster simply because he was traded for. But I would imagine it's a very tight leash. And it is, hey, if you struggle early on, you're probably going to get demoted. So it's interesting stuff. I bring him up, obviously, maybe not in the most positive way, because Team Canada advancing is obviously a really exciting thing for them. But for Julien, it's still a concern because of how bad that bat has been. But that's something to follow, that first base battle. We still don't know who it's going to be, and if Johnson, Rumfield, and Condon continue to play well, it could be something that we won't find out till near the end of spring. So it's a fun competition. You hope Julien can throw his hat into the ring. We just haven't seen enough yet. But that does it for another show. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, share, you name it. It's been cool to see the growth. We're close to 180 subscribers, which is really great. And, we hope to continue, to grow this thing out. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you tomorrow.